Yeah, good morning, Andrew. I can't think of another major vote on a major piece of legislation that was this unanimous, 96-0. And the vote, Andrew, would have been even more if it hadn't been for the fact that so many members of Congress are sequestered back at home or are suffering themselves from this virus. So we could have seen a 100-0 vote potentially yesterday in the United States Senate, but that's where it landed at 96-0. What's in the bill? Well, there's a little something for just about everybody in the economy here. Let's whip through some of the details here for you. For almost everybody, there are these direct payments of up to $1,200 per person. That's $500 per child. That phases out at about $75,000 of income gradually, and over $100,000 of income, you won't get anything. For the unemployed, it extends benefits to 39 weeks from 26 weeks, an extra $600 a week for 4 months. It extends benefits to gig workers and the self-employed, so all those Uber drivers out there will be taken care of. For small business, there's a $350 billion program in here for small business loans that could be forgiven entirely if the small business doesn't lay anybody off after the 8-week period is over. So that's an important one for small business. For big business, there's a lot of different pieces to this, but $500 billion in loans or direct aid to companies. In some cases, the government could take an equity stake in firms. The Federal Reserve, as Steve is going to lay out for us, is going to massively expand its lending facilities. For the states, $150 billion in direct aid. For hospitals, $100 billion plus. There's a bump in Medicare payments here for treating virus patients. There's a lot more in this bill. It's $2 trillion is the official score of the bill. But Andrew, I think the cost of this thing could go much higher than that over time as all those small businesses apply for the programs and everything that's in here is taken advantage of by Americans across the entire economy, Andrew.
Eamon, help us handicap this, though, because we need to get this, as we've all talked about. I mean, the clock is ticking. In terms of timing for the House to pass this at this point, how quickly does this happen? You're hearing from folks like AOC and others that they want to get everybody there in person, which would make it nearly impossible, extend out the timeline.
Right.
There are folks who want to push back on some of the airline bailouts and the executive compensation program around that, which does appear surprisingly, at least to me, to allow what might be described as highly paid executives to keep that pay throughout. So what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, look, the plan as of right now is this is not a Thursday thing. It's a Friday thing. And what the House is going to try to do is to have a voice vote on the floor with nobody objecting, and then allow this to simply pass without bringing the majority of members of Congress back to Washington. Remember, they've all scattered to the 50 states. Bringing them back in this era of the virus and limited flights and everything else can be tricky. You've got a number of members of the House who are themselves sequestered or have COVID, so that could be tricky. But those plans could be undone by any intense faction that decides that they want to make a ruckus here. The question is whether the House, which is a much more fractious body by its nature, can get it to a unanimous position the way the Senate did. We just don't know that yet. Yesterday, Andrew, we saw sort of a mini rebellion by about 4 Republican senators who were concerned that the unemployment benefits plus the direct payments actually paid workers more than they were making before, and therefore provided an incentive not to work. That was quashed by the Treasury Secretary yesterday, who said, look, Americans want to keep their jobs. This is just temporary. I don't think it's a problem in the end. Those senators voted for it, even though they had qualms. We'll see if the left does the same thing in the House side as well.
Hey, guys, I'll throw this up to
in.
both of you. You saw Mnuchin talking yesterday saying that even if things were to pass right away, you're talking about 3 weeks before this money really makes its way to the American people and the American businesses that need it. I mean, that's the sense of urgency we're talking about here. Is that understood, Eamon?
I mean, I think it is, and that's part of why you saw that unanimous vote. In the end, I talked to some of the Republican senators yesterday. One Republican senator, Pat Toomey, yesterday, who had some qualms about this bill, but he said, look, I'm going to vote for it. The market is telling us this is an important thing for us to do. I've got some problems with it, but we need to get this thing done. I think that's where a lot of them landed. I can't tell you how many people just on Twitter, small business people have been reaching out for me. They want to know the specifics of this program. How do I get this 7A loan? How do I get this money in the door right away? There's just a huge intense need for this money in the economy right now, and it's going to strain all of the systems, the federal government, the bureaucracy of the banks, the Federal Reserve. All of it is going to really strain to get this money out the door, but it's going to have to be done.